MSI just continues to taunt me with notebooks that weigh 1/10 of my system but like get 80% of the performance. Why are you doing this to me?
My life be like, yeah. My life be like, yeah. My life be like, yeah. My life be like, times like these that make me say, yeah. Lord, if you see the bitch come my way, like leaving brain control and I'm straight, yeah. Long sacrifice in the price, my life.
Good afternoon, morning, and welcome to Turbo Tortoise Tech. If you're new here, I'm Reese of the 4-piece variety or Wooks XXL. As I've alluded to, I've got another 12700H powered RTX3000 series added poweredness to a 2.8 kilogram notebook that runs off a 240 to a 40 watt charger, mind you. A very standard default Chicone actually. It's hilarious because I used to be a notebook PM and we used to have those literal adapters like for everything, so it was a nice little touch of nostalgia. But this guy here, there's nothing nostalgic about it, absolutely nothing. It is the freshest and most cutting edge, and honestly it's so cutting edge I actually couldn't even find information on the panel. I asked MSI directly. Unfortunately they didn't get the info back to me at the time, because the old GL76s used to have a 1440p 144Hz. Some of you may have noticed the giant 360Hz sticker. That's right, this is esports ready gaming laptop that weighs 2.8 kilos. Okay, 12th gen is just kind of nuts. So for those of you who don't know, you've got P cores and you've got E cores. P cores have hyper-threading on them and are more the traditional sort of what we expected from like 700K onwards. That's more or less what those cores are like, except they're obviously on a much better the production process now, all good 7nm from Intel, and its performance is ridiculous. I mean, these 12700Hs literally rival first gen Threadrippers of 16 cores and 32 threads. So yeah, they are really nice. But how is MSI packaged it this time? Well, this specific chassis, the Pulse GL76, was actually made by Martin Verhoeven. I hope I haven't butchered your name, sir. He's the ZBrush world champion. If you didn't know, there was a competition for ZBrushing, which is like texturing models and stuff on like a very high sort of detail. And it's a very, very cool piece of software. And he's the absolute world champion for this. And he actually helped to design the chassis for the look and feel. And it's carried throughout, along the back and along the bottom. It's this very sort of future tech, like near future sort of high tech effect is what he was going for. And he pulled it off quite nicely, I must say. The only thing I don't really like about the look and feel are actually these bits along the side of the keyboard here. I don't know, they hurt my brain because they don't go all the way to the edge, and then my OCD is like, ah, please, like it should have gone all the way to the edge. But even the mouse pad has a design on it, the keyboard layout and stuff, even the actual lettering and stuff is like its own unique kind of like you know, effect to it. The font and stuff that's been used on it, it all matches. It's all trying to sync together with this. And honestly, while it's visually very appealing, it also actually adds to the performance of the machine, because the cooling space on the bottom of this laptop is absolutely incredible. The amount of airflow and stuff that can go through there it's basically as if it was open. It's almost completely uninhibited. A little precursor warning to that is, please don't use this on your bed, because the fibers from your blanket are going to get sucked up in the fan, and then it's going to overheat, and then it's going to blow up, and then you're not going to get your warranty. So don't do that to yourself. Make sure if you do get one of these, you are using it on a flat, unmaterialed surface, so none of that happens. But similarly around the back, if you look at those vents over there, look at how open they are. There's almost nothing stopping throughput. And I really like this for a couple of reasons. One of them is being maintenance, because if you just took compressed air and you blew out, there's nothing getting in the way of whatever hair, etc. If you've got pets or cats or dogs or whatever, it is literally going to go inside of your system. There's almost nothing you can do about it. But to clean it, it's just going to be like super straightforward. The rest of the laptop is really nicely, well, quite nicely finished, I gotta say. 720p 30 fps camera up top, it's good enough for your Skype meetings, etc. It's not going to launch your streaming career off of there. I would assume you would probably get an external webcam if you were going to use this as part of a streaming setup. You've got the beautiful IPS 360Hz panel. It has super good color reproduction, and honestly I think it's probably close to 100% sRGB rating. I don't have that exact number for you, but it's an 8-bit panel and it's 360 Hertz, and I can attest to it being true 1 millisecond response time. I went into a custom map in CSGO, not the Let's Go FPS benchmark, which is what I'll show you later, but I just went into a custom map and had a feel around, and there's absolutely no smearing. It is super sharp and super responsive. Having done some 360 Hertz and owning a 240 Hertz 1 millisecond response time panel, and owning a VA that has terrible response time, I know the difference for smearing all too intimately. Let's just put it that way. Moving further down there, you've got this really nice chiclet keyboard with amazing backlighting this time. And for that one dude homie in the comments that called MSI lazy for the GS76, you'll be pleased to know that even the little functions, even the little F4s and stuff also shine through. So you can get this instead of that, and then this will fit your specific preference on that just nicely. Below that is a touchpad. It's an okay size. I would have liked it to be a little bit bigger. Obviously, it would have to be done retooling and stuff for the top of the chassis, which is obviously going to be a huge expense to MSI, etc. But I would obviously, like in future editions, just add like 10 mils onto it and just give it a bit more breadth. The multi-touch all works perfectly. The clicks and stuff are pretty good, and I pretty much only use the touchpad while I'm busy testing it so that I can get a feel of the touchpad. Responsiveness, everything is great. You just do run out of touchpad, which is not ideal, right? Below that, on the underside of the chassis, on the sides, here's where they put the speakers, which are just laptop speakers. They're decent enough though that you can watch a movie back without dying, and they're not so tinny that it, well, sounds like a cat on a hot tin roof having a screech over there. They weren't offensive or anything like that. The built-in sound card though, absolutely incredible. Runs like high-end headphones really nicely. It is proper high-res audio, so that's what they're going for. Obviously 192K 24-bit is the maximum bit rate and stuff that it'll put out for your audio, so very high-end stuff. So if you're using FLAC or something like that, you should be able to play it directly from the laptop, absolutely no problems. It's not a very high impedance sound card though, so if you've got 300 ohm or more headphones, then you probably want to get yourself like a FIO or something like that you can have an inline DAC for that very high audio quality. Moving around the bottom, just to re-inspect that cooling setup over here, the way that they've done with these hex grids and stuff and the areas that they've opened up are like quite comprehensive. Especially, you'll notice on your screen, it should be on your left hand side. You'll see there's like a really big gap over there amongst the cooling of the fans, and then again on the like right hand side there's like 2 more gaps over there. And so these have been very strategically placed and within the design ethos. The standoffs in the middle over here are really good. The rubberizing on the bottom and stuff is so good that I can literally move the mouse pad on top of the table over here with them. And the fact that they are standing off and giving that clearance means that cooling pad is maybe not actually that necessary with this laptop, and you'll see with the performance results later that that actually kind of holds true. Speaking of connectivity though, along the left hand side of the laptop you get 2 USBs, one of them a 3.0, the other one a 3.1 type A, and then obviously your power connector towards the back of that. Then on the right hand side you've got an RJ45, a type A 3.1, again you've got an HDMI and your audio out, as well as a type C 3.1. So it's quite heavily banked on the right hand side, which I honestly would have preferred it if it was heavily banked on the left hand side and had all the audio and the RJ45 and stuff on this side, so that if you are using it like to go gaming, etc., then you won't have all of those cables right next to your mouse hand. But the Wi-Fi is incredibly good. I got 86 megabytes per second consistent transfer of about 15 gigs, which I'm doing through my Wi-Fi 6 router. So that was absolutely perfect. Almost no ping increase either. It was 2 millisecond difference between the Wi-Fi and the LAN. So if you don't mind 2 millisecond ping, not that I think anybody's going to feel 1/500th of a second, which is the effective amount of time difference that would create. yeah, I don't think you're going to feel that when you're gaming. So the Wi-Fi is more than well set up enough. And Wi-Fi has always been a great concept, right? But now it's finally actually at the point that, yeah, if you've got a 500 meg line like I do, you can get full throughput on this line, or at least on this Wi-Fi, which is really, really nicely done. SSD as well, great performance, especially on the right. I was very shocked by the result there. It looks like a Gen 3 NVMe. I'm not sure it's a Gen 4 just based on the maximum speed that it achieved, especially in 6.0.2 in Crystal Disk Mark. Having tested some Gen 4s that have gone over 7,000. Yeah, it does look like it is a Gen 3 NVMe, but a very, very high quality one, where the write is just mind-bogglingly good on this. So yeah, very snappy, responsive drive as well. Does come standard with the laptop, and you would hope so at the price point, that being said. But now we get to the critical components, the ones that you're probably looking to buy this notebook for. So the RAM in this instance is DDR4 3200 megahertz, 2x8 gigs in this, so it does have a dual channel setup, 12700H, along with a 105 watt 3070. And that might seem like a bit of an undercut, right? Like you might need 130. But what MSI achieves here with 105 watt is so good, it almost, it does. It literally competes with their own stock. So we're going to start off with Firestrike, where I've got the GS76 result with this alongside, because I thought, but man, these look very familiar or very similar, sort of in the back of my mind. And upon further inspection, I looked at it and I was like, this thing actually wins in graphical performance, which is strange. The GS66 has DDR5 memory as well, so the CPU performance does out it, especially in Cinebench. You'll see there's like 1,000 points added on top, which is basically 8% on that sort of scaling in performance. So multi-threaded and stuff, the DDR5, we know it is better for multi-threaded because it can burst shot more information at one time. But this guy, even with a DDR4, is more than competitive when it comes to gaming performance. Through over 300 FPS casual in CS, so you can use this 360 Hz and get all of that delay input reduction. Over 150 frames in Dota through our extremely particle heavy run. Over 100 frames per second in Vermintide 2 as well. And the most impressive for me was the Cyberpunk, because it still absolutely breaks PCs over its knee. And this got 82 FPS with everything maxed out and medium ray tracing on. And it's still got an average of 82 frames per second. So if you want to game anything on AAA at 1080p on this monitor, it's going to be perfect. Yeah, the previous generation was 1440p, but even 1080p at this size is a PPI of 127 pixels per inch. Over here is 127. So it's super sharp. That's like 27 1440p sort of sharpness level, quite comparable PPI. And I really like that they've gone with the 360 Hz over the 144, because CS is a great example. You actually have, you know, games that we still play, like lots of people play. There's like 800,000 concurrent players still playing CSGO. And well, there you go. If you want to do that at the highest level on the go, you can. The multi-threaded performance as well is so good. Even with the DDR4, it's right on the heels of the 1950X from the first generation Threadrippers. And then if you look at the Blender scores, it's doing its job exceptionally well. This, as a sort of like design / crossover gaming notebook, is absolutely perfect. And the design for this doesn't feature a lot of outward bound LEDs. If you turn off the backlighting on the keyboard, it looks almost like a normal corporate notebook. The only thing that would, well, obviously tick you off to that is the 360 Hz. You know, we're very proud of our 360 Hz and the sticker for the Pulse GL. But if you were to, say, debadge it and even take off your Intel and your RTX stickers over here, I don't think too many people would be the wiser unless they came around the front and saw the performance. Now, as far as modes and setup and performance goes, is what I wanted to show you here with MSI Center, because the cooler boost did increase the performance. I am also testing it. It is very cold at the moment. I think most of my tests were done at sub 15 degrees C. So it is very, very cold ambient temperature, which is also obviously aiding the performance. The cooler boost, once again, did show a performance improvement, but it wasn't as much as what I saw with the GS66, which also tested in pretty mild climate at the time. So I think though, as things get hotter, you'll be able to do that. And once again, it's on a one button system. So you just hit function over here in the cooler boost and you've got instant cooling performance. And it does get obviously pretty loud, but without that, if you just turn it off, you leave it in the silent or even the smart auto mode. The smart auto mode will generally hum at about the level it is at now, and especially in gaming, you'll hear the fans a little bit, but as soon as you put on a set of headphones, you're not going to hear anything, especially if they're closed back. Open back, you might get a bit of a hum, but it's pleasant. It's not a bad whistling sound. It doesn't have any warble to it. It's very uniform. So I think that's attesting to them just reusing this chassis generation on generation. So overall, your package over here is just really nicely finished, really nicely put together. A few things I would like changed, but I think at the money, considering this panel, GPU and CPU, just that alone, it already makes sense at 40K. I don't see too many laptops with 360 hertz panels at this sort of price point that weigh as much as this, that are nice, that look as nice. I mean, the back panel on this is just, it's sleek. I really like how MSI it is. MSI for me was in a state of like being quite reactionary as a company, and now they seem a lot more proactive and in line with their brand and stuff with look and feel. So one other thing that I saw on some other sites from the previous generation was the mobility factor scores were quite low because of the battery performance. But with this sucker, continuous video playback, I got just over 6 hours. And then to charge from flat to full was done in about 1 hour and 45. So it's really good battery, honestly. That means you could do light work like Excel, PowerPoint or stuff like that. Nothing 3D or graphic there. You're probably going to halve that to about 3 hours if you do start really engaging the processor and stuff. I noticed it would die in about 2.5 hours if it was like running a game sort of level thing. And of course on battery, you're going to get significantly less performance, probably about 30% off the top. But if you've got a wall plug close by, and this Chicone 240 watt brick, like I said, it just brings back such nostalgia, because when I was a PM, that's pretty much, that was our supply as well. So yeah, I can attest to these being pretty damn reliable. We didn't really ever have to even replace them, which was great. So summing up this package then, it's not a really hot boy, to be honest with you. The fans and nothing ever got near any thermal throttling point. I'm testing in a cold environment. I'd like to see how it handles the African heat when we're hitting like 35 degrees C ambient temperature. But there you've got the cooler boost to be able to enable that. The new Smart Auto is really good. It's so good, it gets really on the heels of the cooler boost without having to do as much fan curve. It's probably 60% of the maximum fan curve that it ever achieved. I didn't hear it. Like I work here, my PC is just behind there, and I walk between when I'm doing benchmarking stuff, and it wasn't really like noticeably audibly loud. Everything ran really smoothly. I had it on for 48 hours at one point. I ran multiple tests on it. Like, I just carried on trundling on. Never skipped a beat, never gave me any weird feeling, blue screeny vibes, laggy, etc. Except when I disconnect the battery, then the Smart Auto has like a little shift to like analyze it. It streamed 4K completely off of its battery, absolutely no problems. So it's really well tuned. It is a 90 watt hour battery 4-cell, so it is pretty big as well. But everything that I would want in a usage cycle of a laptop like this worked absolutely perfectly. And that is where I'm going to leave you. If you guys have enjoyed this review, please do hit us up with a like and subscribe, and I will see you on the flip side.
So why do I trip and stumble? And ooh, eyes, commitment crumbles. I can't believe that I'm here again.